偿的时候呢，实际上这个补偿的标准呢是比较高的，执行起来呢，这个企业如果严格按照这个标准执行的话呢，它就非常的就可能会把这个企业就真的就给搞垮了。这个严格来执行的话。
In China, work unions are not independent organizations formed freely by employees, and work unions established without government approval are illegal. Due to the complications of these labor laws and the difficulty of establishing unions, it is hard to protect the rights and interests of workers.
最忙的那段时间，我去急诊去了4次，然后一次是心脏不太舒服，就我可能，就是可能需要就是比较稳定的，比如说每个月我需要有一些 income。我觉得如果是按照正常的 path 来说的话，那一年的话可能40，就很独立一点这种感觉。不是所有人都那么幸运，就是我的工作内容是跟我自己想做的事情，他们是就100%一致的。那你肯定会有一些不适应的地方，但是你作为，你确实你要生活呀，所以你要工作，
对。什么在支撑着我呀？第一，首先肯定还是比较高的薪资。因为确实就是如果换工作的话，没有其他的工作能给到现在这样的待遇。然后第二就是因为周围的人都在跟我过一样的生活，就是会有一种不甘心吧，就是别人既然都能撑下来了，那我为什么不可以？我现在已经想开了，就是我要让自己过得快乐，就以这个为目的的话，那我觉得我之前的生活方式确实没有办法做到快乐，所以我决定还是对自己好一点。钥匙，这个千万不能。
Ming now has a better work-life balance. She works from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. with a 2-hour lunch break, 5 days a week.
所以现在的生活状态我还是非常满意的。新工作呢，最重要的一点就是不怎么加班，然后老板们都很随和，或者说我的同事基本上也都是属于那种，比较注重工作和生活平衡的人。在这种环境下的话，就是整个人就松散下来了。
这是一个灰船，炸这个炸好吃。
好吃吗？
In a snub to China's rat race and expectation to work long hours, Generation Z are calling on their peers to start slacking off, or as they have dubbed it, 摸鱼, or touching fish. This philosophy of touching fish is borrowed from a Chinese proverb which states, muddy waters make it easy to catch fish. It means that people should take advantage of a crisis to chase personal gains.
如果当前没有其他紧急的事儿的时候，就会下楼跟同事摸个鱼，然后顺便买个咖啡啊什么的，看看外面的风景。你当然也不敢离开工位太久了呀，万一老板要找你找不到人怎么办？倒不如说是摸鱼，应该算是打工人仅有的乐趣了，就真的靠偶尔间歇性的摸鱼撑过这一整天。
While many have critical opinions against 996, some see it as an inevitable sacrifice for success in China. In a post on Alibaba's WeChat account, leading tech titan Jack Ma famously stated, "I personally think that being able to work 996 is a huge blessing." In another post on Weibo, he also wrote that he won't defend 996, but he salutes those who are willing to work hard to improve their livelihoods. Li Ran works in a web media company in Beijing as a manager, leading a team of 20 people. She believes that if you feel there's no way to escape, you should work harder, instead of complaining.
从某种角度上来说是难以避免的，就是你不做总有人来做，然后从公司的角度其实来说也是一样的，你不加班，然后其他的公司都在加班，然后你公司的成本就会提高，你的效率就会降低，然后你就会被别人赶超。有些时候可能未必是我们主动去选择的一件事情，而是说因为你身边的人都在往前跑，你就不敢停下来。哪怕我换一个工作，换一个地方， 可能依然是这样的结果，也许还没有现在得到的回报高。我现在取得了一定的成绩，或者是公司给了我相应的一定的回报，也是因为我当时选择了坚持下来，而没有坚持下来的小伙伴也有离开这个团队的。所以其实我真的觉得有时候的你现在过什么样的生活是由你过去的无数个选择造成的。
我觉得大家可能都是被动的陷入了这个996的一个怪圈里面，因为就首先有一点就是其他人都在996，你不可能不996，因为你不想成为那个异类，或者是老板眼中那个表现不好的喜欢偷懒的人。第二就是就算是老板，我觉得他们可能也是迫于无奈而这样子的，因为我们的业绩要求确实压力很大，就这个你要为了达成那个业绩要求是必须就要用这么样多的工时和人来填上来来补上来的。其实大家我觉得都是没有太多选择的。
因为中国和这个西方国家相比，我们在文化上还是有一点差异。我们的文化是有这个尊卑和上下，我们要为人上人。什么叫人上人？就是你们就是尊卑是有差异的。当然我们希望最后我们能够像这个更遵从平等观点就是大家都是中等收入阶层。
这个必然的并不一定是合理的，也不一定是合法的。就是人作为一个人来说，那么他最主要的，我觉得还是要一个这个人性的一个解放啊，还有一个以人为本的一个这个发展理念啊，就是这些东西，我觉得是一个长远这个持续发展的一个最根本的一个东西。
The philosophy and practice of 996 is complex. Most of the employees that we interviewed evidently knew that they were sacrificing their physical and mental health, but they still persevere. Heavy stress is weighing on young employees in China due to the immense pressure they place on themselves to improve their economic position and social status. There is hope for change as some companies begin to acknowledge the extremity of 996 and offer fairer working hours to their employees. However, although 996 has been brought to the public's attention and has been criticized for many years, their practice continues.
今天不太累，今天5点不是下班，然后我们就去团建，然后主要是看到了我喜欢的乐队，就还挺好的。但明天应该挺累的，因为我明天早上特别早有个会，我应该是10点多把我的工作消息都清完了，然后我现在有126条，对，就差不多10点钟到现在。我现在的状态来说，就确实是没有什么生活，然后我觉得也没有什么灵魂，就是比较麻木，然后包括就是以前你可能每天就是你的心可能没有这么的沉，就是以前的那种感觉，就是我工作起来，我只是可能会觉得稍微有点累，可能现在的这种感觉是就是一直在往下坠，这种感觉。
In 2025, the wealth gap in South Korea has surged to record levels.
한국 같은 경우는 일반적으로 자산 불평등이 굉장히 심화되고 있고 이에 따라서 이게 가장 시급하게 개선돼야 할 문제라고 생각합니다.
While its elderly poverty rate is the highest among developed economies.
벌어도 똑같은 돈을 벌다 보장도 못하고 공부를 하고 안 하고 능력이 있고 똑같은 돈을 번다는 모양도.
As the once burgeoning South Korean economy sputters,
너무 빨리 달려. 뒤를 좀 돌아보면서 달렸어야 되는데 너무 앞만 보고 달린 게 문제라고.
Nobody doesn't want kids.
People cannot want kids. It's a thing.
That is not a thing.
Well, it's my thing.
I didn't really ever want kids, but I always assumed I would have them.
I kept asking myself, is this going to happen to me? Does it have to happen? I acted like it was going to be this inevitable fate.
When I first graduated from college, I bought a house. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy this house now for my kids to live in. I don't even know where I got that from, but I was like, oh, yo, I'm gonna buy this house for my kids to live in, and my husband.
Out of all my friends, I basically am one of the only ones who does not have a child. As a woman of color, you're expected to be, you know, the caregiver extraordinaire, like somebody's nanny or somebody who's just naturally maternalistic. I've been very clear in my serious relationships very early on that I do not want children. In some cases, I think people feel that they will change my mind later. You know, they're certainly more than welcome to have that opinion, but at their own peril. You come across a man whose biological clock is ticking because literally, you know, once he does the preliminary assessment of are you attractive, do I want to have sex with you, then it's like, would you be a suitable vessel? You can just see it, you know, you're like, you know, my kid would have decent cheekbones, be articulate, you're not round, you know, you're decent size, it's all good. You, vessel, come forth. I think that people who are obsessed with adding humans to the planet, given the current state of the planet, should, you know, think twice about that before they pass judgment on people who haven't done that. One of the things my mother taught me, for which I'm immensely grateful, is to always ask questions, never take anything at face value, and be independent, be an independent thinker. It's basically, it's a survival skill, you know?
I do not want children, okay? Why can nobody accept this?
Sweetie, you do not have to decide right now. You still have plenty of time. I remained fertile till I was 56.
Terrific.
There's a lot more variety in our population than I think most of us know. The fact that many people don't want to have children and that it's common, I know, because I ask.
Dr. Bernadette Thrussell is my very supportive OBGYN.
Historically, I think there were always women who didn't want to have children. The ability to control your fertility was so limited. In order to not have children, it was making a commitment to celibacy.
Consider the women we've historically called spinsters, old maids, and cat ladies. The assumption was that no man wanted them. But what if they stayed single on purpose? Before modern contraceptives, most women had little control over whether or not they had children. A woman's value was as a walking uterus, put on this earth to birth and raise babies for her husband and her nation.
Our wombs and what comes out of our wombs as women can be viewed as property.
None more so than enslaved women who were raped by their owners and forced to bear their children, and then watched them be sold off.
One of the big reasons that women were tried and executed as witches in this continent had to do with the attempts to control fertility. Women who worked as curanderas, women who worked as medicine women, they would use herbs to control fertility, different devices, timing, prayer, dance, anything you could to try and, you know, take some control of this thing.
These methods were risky, but pregnancy was riskier. Giving birth was the #1 killer of young women into the 1940s. In the 1950s, a new contraceptive was tested on women in Puerto Rico, many of them unaware of its experimental nature or dangerous side effects. The study was deeply tainted by unethical testing protocols. The pill became legal throughout the United States in 1972.
Don't forget to take your pill. I won't.
Women could live full sexual lives that didn't have to lead to motherhood, and people were talking about it and organizing around it. In 1971, Ellen Peck wrote the groundbreaking book, The Baby Trap. The success of the book led her and Shirley Rattle to found the National Organization for Non-Parents, in part to increase awareness of overpopulation.
The high priestess of the child-free movement is Ellen Peck, who put it all together in her book, The Baby Trap.
I see this as a movement that is threatening to no one. There is no one who would not benefit from a greater trend toward child-free lifestyles.
Ellen Peck was known. There were people all over the United States that hungered to hear what she had to say.
Marcia Brett Davis was there for the creation of the child-free movement.
I was going for therapy to try to find the maternal instinct that had not come out yet. I thought there was something wrong. Something genetically was wrong in me because I was denying a biological destiny. Ellen Peck's book was the first book I ever read and the only book that I ever could find at that time that talked about the right of choosing not to have children and that it was a perfectly fine choice. I devoured it.
It's not a mere fad. It apparently answers some deeply felt conviction. They're against people pollution. Some of them have even joined an outfit called NON, the National Organization of Non-Parents, to spread the gospel.
I was at the National Organization for Non-Parents' first convention. Somebody came up to me and whispered in my ear, I hear you're going to tell your in-laws for the first time that you don't want to have children. And foolishly I said, well, yeah. And she said, can 60 Minutes come and can we listen to this conversation? And foolishly I said, yeah.
When are you going to have a baby? That, without doubt, is the question young married couples hear most. After all, isn't that what the American dream is all about?
Before we were filmed, my mother-in-law took me aside and said, what is it? What are you a stripper? I said, no. She said, well, wait, are you an alcoholic? No. Are you a drug addict? No. Group sex? No, Mom. Well, what could be so awful that they're filming? Why is this a big deal? What's going on? What are you going to tell us? I said, sit down. I don't think you're going to like it.
Marcia and Warren Rothstein wanted to explain their decision not to have children to his parents. 60 Minutes went along as they broke the news.
I love children, but for years and years and years, there's been something inside of me that said, I don't really think I want to be a mother. And it bothered me. I thought, my God, Marcia, there's something wrong with you. You're not normal.
But a lot of what was said was edited because 60 Minutes had a point of view, and my point of view did not mesh with 60 Minutes.
It's against all natural instincts when two people get married for them not to have children.
But if we don't reach that point, does that mean there's something the matter with us, or that Warren and I don't love each other?
Well, like Dan said, it may be that you have a selfish attitude.
We can live together, and we can be happy together, and we don't have to depend on having love or whatever from a child to make our life happy.
No.
Well, aren't you considering anything about your future?
The last thing that Mike Wallace said.
We trust you'll pardon our perverseness in broadcasting Three's a Crowd on Mother's Day.
The next day I was fired as a teacher because I was perverse, and of course I probably hated children. I started to get death threats. My dog's life was threatened. It was shocking.
The National Organization for Non-Parents closed up shop in the 80s. A casualty of family values conservatism. But the child-free conversation continued, including the first book about not wanting children that I ever read, Molly Peacock's 1998 memoir, Paradise Piece by Piece.
Now Paradise Piece by Piece is being released as an ebook. And I thought, what's happening now that there's this kind of response? And it made me think about my generation and another generation of women and men now who are making this decision. I was among the first people, I suppose, who really were free to make this choice. I went to a university between 1965 and 1969. I was on the birth control pill. When I track my decision and my urge to write about it, because it felt so isolated, and yet I knew that there were, of course, other people making this decision. When my book came out, there was all of this activity. And I've never stopped receiving mail. A little drumbeat of people who've passed this book from person to person, who find it in libraries, who buy it used. People connect to it.
Molly and her husband were featured in a 2009 Maclean's cover story entitled The Case Against Having Kids. Behind the sensationalized cover was a profile of the growing group of people who didn't want to be parents. That story was written by Ann Kingston.
I've written a lot of stories that have pissed readers off. But I've never seen such a volcanic kind of response. Disgusted was the subject line of one email. It made me nauseous to read the article. I now feel genuinely sorry for those who focus on their selfish existence and end up lonely and bored and childless. People took it really personally. They didn't see it as a cultural subject, which is what it actually is, but rather a kind of indictment for the choices they make. It became very personal. People said, don't send your kids to Ann Kingston's house for Halloween. I guess they were assuming that I didn't like kids myself and I would be serving, poisoned apples, etc.
Did you say in the story that you didn't have kids?
No, I didn't discuss my own experience at all. It was really about, discussing it more broadly and discussing all the reasons people were coming forward to say they didn't want to have children. We haven't quite figured out a language to discuss this, or kind of a civil way of conducting a conversation that wasn't pitted in accusations or blame or often sympathy.
The Pope has a very strong message for you. Pets are no substitute for children.
Having children means less time for vacations and spin class.
It's going to break down the entire social contract.
I mean, have you ever seen anything more selfish, decadent, and stupid?
What's wrong with being selfish? Why is that a problem for you?
What is selfish about a conscious, considered choice?
A lot of thought goes into not having kids. In fact, often more thought than actually having children, which is one of the paradoxes that surrounds this conversation.
We have a discussion in this house all the time about whether or not we want more cats. And my housemate was like, what do you think is a lot of cats? And I was like, 20? And she's like, I think 5. 5 is a lot of cats. And she's right, 20 is like too many cats. A lot of people live here, most of us are artists. There's a welding studio in the back garage. People often say to me like, oh, do you live with 8 people on purpose? Which I think is an interesting question, because it's like this idea that like by the time you're X age, you would not be living with friends or roommates, you would live with your partner and you would have a house and a baby. And so like this couldn't be something that people would do on purpose. This is by design, this life. I'm not missing anything. I didn't forget to have kids. I'm not looking for the right person. I'm just not interested.
I've never been interested either. It disappoints people that I don't have a dramatic reason for not wanting kids. But actually, it's quite simple. Of the many things I've wanted to do with my life, having children was never on the list. By my 40s, people stopped asking. Then I met my husband, Ed, and he totally supported my decision not to become a mother. But as soon as we got married, the questions started right up again. When are you gonna have a baby?
When I was a queer single woman, I don't think I was ever asked even once if I was planning on having kids or when I was wanting to have kids. And same when Leo and I started dating, we were perceived as a lesbian couple or two women together. We weren't asked those questions. Once Leo transitioned and was presenting more masculine, everyone, including folks from the queer community, his family, and even random strangers, started asking us when we were having kids, telling us we'd be really great parents, and really pushing us towards starting a family of human children.
You're getting older, now you look like a straight couple, so of course the next thing on your list is to have children.
I'm being spoken. Okay, do you want me to see if I can fix it? I think there's an assumption when people choose to be child-free that they don't like children, and that is not the case. I really enjoy kids. I'm silly, I treat them like adults, I love dressing up, I wear cat earrings and Miss Frizzle style dresses. I do really well with kids. I also really like giving them back. It's getting to take now. I do this at home. You do that at home?
Anytime someone asks me if I'm going to have kids, it's always kind of shocking for me because it was never really a concept I thought about. The fact that I never wanted kids when I was presenting as a woman, the fact that I would suddenly change my mind now that I'm presenting as a man, blows my mind that people would think that that's something I would ever want or need. So even in communities like the queer community that often break norms and challenge assumptions and stereotypes of how life should be lived, everyone is still under the pressure of what a traditional life should look like and what societal expectations are for them.
Bam!
Being the oldest women's college in the nation, people assume, I've had people tell me, all of your girls want to have babies. I had a student who said, Dr. Dennis, all women want children. No. And that motivated me even more to create the course about child-free. Raise your hand if you want to have biological or adoptive children one day. Raise your hand if you do not. It's very common in sociology courses in this country and around the world to have a course about women and reproduction. But those courses rarely, if ever, mention not reproducing. So my entire course is about not reproducing.
I was 10 when I started raising my sister's kids, and even then it's like, oh, you must want your own kids. It's like, no, I already raised 3 kids. I don't want to raise my own. Like, I didn't want to raise those 3. What makes you think I want to raise
right.
mine? Like,
so now you know how it is.
You know, you have the dream of, okay, I want the white picket fence.
Some people did that. I didn't. Not all of us, but some people.
So I wanted the 2 kids, but that was it. My daughters, I tell them constantly, do not have kids.
Here's what I recommend. Since I talk about reproductive justice, instead of telling them don't have kids, tell them that there are choices and they should be wise choices.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes being child-free also ties into that, like, socioeconomic problems and that vicious cycle of poverty, especially that we see in minority communities. My friends and I, we do have conversations about kids. Our conversation is always, we want to make sure that whether or not we do want to have kids, when we come to that decision, we are financially stable. We've seen like our own families struggle.
Years ago, when I decided that I'm never having children, I started researching the topic because, unfortunately, although I have an aunt who never had children, it's never been an open discussion in my environment. Almost everything you read is about African diaspora women being mothers. Cultures around the world perpetuate this idea that there's only one way to be a woman, and it's through having children. Most societies are pronatalist. So who knows what pronatalist means? Who knows what pronatalism is? What is natalism?
Pronatalism. What does it mean? And why should we care? It comes from the Latin for and birth, which sounds innocent enough, right?
Los Angeles County's annual Ladera Park Baby Show gets rolling as 1,000 tiny tots show up in carriages, prams, buggies, and push carts.
Pronatalism refers to encouraging, requiring, even forcing people to reproduce.
Elaine, you gotta have a baby.
I'm the father of Jonathan, my son. He took his own life at the age of 23. 2018, April 24, exact to this date. Why didn't you see it coming? Well, Jonathan was always a very active child, the life of the party, who really enjoyed socializing. So he had many friends. He also had a way to organize, among his brothers. They like to do online gaming together. And he was always the leader. Even the eldest brother would have to, listen to him. Well, he's always the rebellious one. So, yeah, that was also something that I couldn't believe. But that day itself actually was a normal day. As usual, we had breakfast in the morning, me and my wife, together with him. He handed me a name card saying that he's been seeing this physiotherapist. He also knew that I have some muscular pain and wanted to give me the card and say that, hey, Pa, maybe you should call this person and see if this person can help you as well. We drop him off at the MRT. Normally I would say, I love you, son, and then he would say the same thing. Then I got a call from a lady who identified herself as an investigation officer, an IO from the police. She said that it is about your son Jonathan. When she mentioned John, something popped in me. So I was panicking in the car. I keep missing, a critical turn. So a 40-minute drive turned out to be more than an hour. And that's where the news broke to us that John has passed and that he took his own life. There's no way, in relating to the day's events, that I could even believe that John took his life. Yeah, it was just something that inconceivable. I suppose the situation, it's okay. The situation happened so fast, so I keep telling the IO that you probably had made a mistake, and there's no way that my son would do that. Yeah. In fact, I repeated many times that there's no way. Yeah. The denial was unbearable, but I couldn't accept it. Yeah. Could you recognize his body? When I saw the feet, then I realized it was really him. Because my son, John, had flat feet. So I noticed right away. But both feet was no longer, in that sense, when you lie down in your bed, your feet basically is upright, right? Yeah, his is split like this. So immediately I also knew that his body was so broken up. Then I saw his body. It wasn't really a body. It was just a bundle of, I believe, different parts of his body. But they show his face, and his face was completely intact. That was something that I was grateful. I just literally call up to him and say, son, Ba is here. And that's all I could say.
So sorry you had to push.
Well, I'm sorry too. I was supposed to work out all the details, how long the wake is going to be, how the funeral is going to be, even right down to choosing the casket. I also kind of lost it already, right? Because the day before, we are talking about his future, talking about how he will continue to finish his degree, his job and everything. And then, when we're at the mortuary, we're talking about how to prepare his death. Talk about the responsibility, right? Well, I guess that's what you do. That's supposed to be the responsibility of a father and a husband. Did you fail him as a father? Yes, certainly. Yeah. Why couldn't I detect any sign of his mental struggle or even depression? I couldn't tell. Up to this stage, I still did not know what was the real cause of why he took his own life. There wasn't any kind of rationale in terms of the thought or reflection, just blind rage about me being a father, being a useless father. I remember that during the wake, the funeral itself, it was an open casket that everybody could see. We want to be very honest with them that even we ourselves did not know. So obviously, that also invited a lot of questions or unwanted questions. But it also gave us the courage to really not to beat around the bush, to make sure that we took a stand on that for the sake of the family and also for the sake of my son. Even though, outwardly I was doing fine. When I was alone, going to bed, I was spiraling. Yeah, to the point that I just felt that the darkness was just killing me. Yeah, I could almost see myself on edge, right? On the one side, I would survive. On the other side, I just let go. Scary to admit that you are not as strong as you think you are, as a father, as a husband. But the admissions, I must say, also gave me strength that I didn't have to pretend what I'm not. After that, we have a very, very good family meeting. What I said is that I felt that being a father and being a husband, I didn't fulfill my responsibility of either of this role. The more I talk about my failure, the more I saw my sons and my wife gave me the assurance that they're going to be there. They'll always be there. Yeah. I finally took the courage to reach out to SOS. I just wanted to see if there's any way that I could join the support group. This counselor was very kind, but he was also very firm. He said, no, you are in no conditions to join the support group because what you need is to have one-to-one counseling support. Because I realized is that when you join the support group, every one of us need to have that courage, not just to introduce ourselves, but to repeat whom we have lost and what happened. And if I wasn't ready, and I started listening to all the different stories, it can be very difficult. What I'm most afraid of doing about facing up to my guilt and shame, those were the things that I literally found myself that I had to confront. Do you fear forgetting him? It's a very common question that we ask ourselves. Yeah, because over time, memories fade, right?
What are like your favorite memories that you like to revisit?
His defiance, his laughter. There used to be a time that because they enjoy the gaming so much, I would always get very angry and then, went out to the living room and say that, hey guys, do you know what time it is? Now, my sons, still do that, but that noise is no longer there. So all of a sudden, I miss that. After 8 years, I guess in many sense, I still remember my son fondly, and I still cherish and treasure all the memories I had, with him and for him. As we're moving on with our life, I don't think we're leaving him alone. We're moving on because all my sons are growing up, they're going to have their own life. But it doesn't diminish our memory of John, just that it evolved to the next phase of our life. He is still very much our son. And I speak it in the present tense. Whenever we talk about certain things that we are doing together, and all of a sudden it will jolt our memory about what John used to do, we talk about him freely. That means that we include his memory in our daily conversation. And that gives us strength. During the time that when I was spiraling, I actually couldn't see any light. I needed to do something that is purposeful and meaningful for me to at least try. I transitioned from a survivor to now a facilitator so that I can help other parents who are in the same shoes as me. Oftentimes we assume that loving, just because you love them so much, you thought that you will also know them inside out. that is false. I would say that for parents going through a situation like that, if they already detect signs of their sons having this kind of suicide ideation, I would very much encourage them not to skirt around the issue, to ask directly, are they thinking about taking their own life? Yeah, people may say that, wow, is this even the questions that you can ask? Because if you ask, wouldn't that induce, to make the intention clear? No, on the contrary, is that maybe that's exactly what they need. They needed people to talk to them. Suicide is not just a one-person business. It's multiple parties' business. If I look at myself, that statement about never mind, they will move on, is just a fantasy, unfortunately. Look at me. Have I moved on? Moving on is not a simple case that everything will be honky-dory and then we'll be all peaceful and we will forget about, our loved one. No one is able to move on and forget about everything. There will be a time that we're going to come to the end of our own life. I just want to believe that when that time comes, the opportunity to be able to reunite with John will be there. Yeah. If I saw him again, what would be the first thing I would say to him? I'm going to repeat that short phrase that when I saw him lying in the morgue, I would say, hey son, Ba is here. I'm so glad that we can be together again.
It breaks my heart that I don't get to plan a wedding. It breaks my heart that I don't have a career right now. I don't know when I'll ever have a career again. I essentially just channeled all my energy into making sure my mom had everything she needed. And the reality is we don't know how much longer my mom's going to be around. I help her clean herself, soap, get the toothbrush. Literally, part of my daily routine was when she passes motion, I take a peek because I need to know whether or not there is blood in her stool. For some reason, I'm not disgusted by it. I don't even know why. I think because I look at it from a project management perspective, which is what I used to do. When my mom started getting sick and I said, oh, I've stopped working because I'm going to be my mom's primary caregiver. I always get the question, why don't you just get a maid? I don't see how I am expected to just hand it over to the hands of someone she does not know personally in such a private and almost to a certain extent invasive manner on a daily basis.
I wonder.
Tissue.
I want to cut my hair.
Yeah, okay. We'll cut your hair next week, okay?
Yesterday I didn't take the
sweet. Okay, tomorrow, later, okay? After your blood test, you can take the sweet. Alright? Boleh tak? You take your medicine first. And then after that you can makan and top up your water, right? Loneliness, it's the hardest part. The problem of being a caregiver is that you really struggle to find time for yourself. You start to lose your sense of self-identity. So you can be in a room full of people, but you still feel very lonely. One of the things that I think is with anyone caring for an elderly